Sea Tales, The Happy Sea Prince is one of the worst animations I've ever seen. Not in terms of the animation quality, but in terms of the message at the end of the film. So there will be spoilers as I explain what happens at the end. And some may argue that I'm overthinking things, but I actually think the opposite is true. If you look a little bit beyond the main message and dig a little bit deeper into it and actually have conversations surrounding it, it's not so bad. But for a young child watching this, and then obviously not thinking too deeply into it, maybe there aren't any adults around them to have conversations about it, if they're just taking it on face value, then I think the message is horrendous. And if I had a child, granted I would discuss it with them, but if I had a child, I would not show them this because of the message at the end. I think it is disgusting. The Happy Sea Prince was released in 2007. This is in volume 2 of Sea Tales. It's volume 2 of 3. And this one is narrated by Larry King. And it's about this golden statue of a happy prince. And this is actually based on the Oscar Wilde story. I don't know if I read the story. I assume the ending is the same, but I can't comment on the story. This is based purely on this animation. And this whale visits the Happy Prince statue, and the statue can talk and encourages the whale to do kind things on his behalf, such as taking flakes of gold from the statue and giving them to those in need. That's obviously a really lovely message. And as I said, big spoilers from now as I discuss ultimately what happens. Eventually, the whale takes out the jewels from the statue's eyes at the statue's insistence, and now the statue can't see. So the whale decides that he's going to stay beside the statue so that he can be his eyes, which in itself was quite sweet. And then the whale dies. The whale dies beside the statue, and obviously the statue is no longer gold because he gave the flakes away. He hasn't got any vision, and his heart breaks. And then God asks for the 2 most precious things in the city to be brought to him. And this is the bit that I think is disgusting. And I say this as somebody who's deeply religious. I have a lot of faith. I think the message is revolting. The 2 most precious things are the dead whale and the as good as dead statue. And that message there, again, purely on the surface, if you dig into it, it's not quite the case, but on the surface, it's saying that you are only God's most precious things if you die by doing good things for other people. Now, I would argue you're more useful if you stay alive and continue to do good things for other people. But on the surface, the message there, as it quite clearly states, the most precious things, not some of the most precious, the most precious things are the dead whale and basically dead statue. And that's because they died being kind. Any kindness that other people show doesn't matter because they're still alive. That's the message that the film delivers, and that is disgusting, it's damaging, it's dangerous. It is telling young viewers that you can only be God's most precious things if you die because of your kindness. How revolting is that? It is absolutely disgusting. If they had just ended this a couple of minutes earlier and the characters were still alive, even then God could call upon them as the most precious things in the city. That would be okay. But the fact that they're highlighting that these are the most precious because they died, because they gave up their life after being kind. Bearing in mind their death doesn't help anybody. It's not like they saved somebody and died in the process. They could have stayed alive and carried on helping people. Granted, the Happy Prince was out of gold and things, so that would have been a bit awkward. But the Happy Prince could still teach people, could still educate people on kindness. The whale could still go and do good things. It didn't have to be this way. So I actually think it's one of the most disgusting endings to any film I have ever seen, ever. And I can't comment on Oscar Wilde's story. If I have read it, it was a long time ago. I don't know if it ends in the same way. But that message is horrendous. Again, digging deeper into it, it is just basically saying these people were kind, therefore they're the most precious. But on the surface, and to a young child reading it who maybe hasn't got the deepest comprehension yet, it just looks like they're the most precious because they're dead. It's not a good message. It's not a good film. Up until that point, it's fine. But I 100% do not recommend it. I think it is disgusting. And as I said, I don't have a child. But if I did, even though I would discuss it with them, I wouldn't show them it. I think The Happy Sea Prince is honestly one of the most disgusting things with one of the most horrendous messages that I have ever seen. Yes, be kind. Yes, do things for other people. No, don't kill yourself in the process. And no, you don't have to be dead to be considered precious by the Lord. Sure, the animation of the film looks fine, the narration is pleasant to listen to, but the story has a disgusting, horrendous, vile message at the end, a damaging, dangerous message that completely overshadows the message of kindness, and I really, really hate it.